This huge pool is meant to give member countries stability and cash flow, especially when the economy is unclear or the global market is volatile. But unlike traditional savings, this pool isn't backed by gold or US dollars, which is what you might think for such a big financial project. The BRICS countries have instead picked a very different path. The pool doesn't use any traditional assets, it only uses XRP, Ripple's digital asset. This is a big step into the future of banking and digital currencies. Why XRP? The answer lies in the way it works technically and in the benefits it has over both fiat money and other cryptocurrency. Most blockchains can't match the speed at which XRP transactions settle. This is much faster than standard banking systems, which can take days to process international payments. Compared to Bitcoin or Ethereum, it is also very scalable and uses very little energy, so thousands of transfers can happen every second with little damage to the environment. XRP is also already being used for cross-border payments by more and more financial companies around the world. Because of how quickly the financial world is changing these days, it is the most sensible and forward-looking choice for a high-volume payment asset. The BRICS countries' choice to use XRP is a geopolitical concession, especially for China. The digital yuan is China's own digital currency that can be used both inside and outside of China. However, talks within the BRICS alliance show that China agreed to XRP as a neutral, non-sovereign digital asset in order to keep the alliance together. Even though there are geopolitical disagreements, this alliance needs everyone to work together. Using XRP makes sure that no one country controls the pool. This protects the bloc's ability to negotiate with Western financial systems as a whole. For trade payments within BRICS, this liquidity pool will be the base. Imagine that Russia was selling oil to India, Brazil was sending goods to China, and South Africa was making different kinds of trade deals. On the XRP ledger, all trades were settled right away. This method completely skips SWIFT, getting around sanctions and reliance on the US dollar. The speed at which XRP is constantly moving through this network and around in the $500 billion pool could make a huge demand for XRP tokens, which would drive up their price well above what the market had expected. But there are people who doubt the feasibility of such a huge project. In the past, it was hard for the BRICS countries to agree on big projects because their political and economic goals were different. Putting $500 billion into a single digital asset, especially one that is likely to go down in value, makes me think about how to handle risk and keep the money stable. China puts a lot of value on sovereign control, so it probably wouldn't give a privately created digital currency like XRP so much power. Russia and India also have their own strategic concerns that could make it harder for them to work together fully. We are living through what could be one of the most important changes in the history of global banking. The BRICS countries will create a $500 billion cash pool that will be backed by XRP alone. When these emerging countries work together to build a new base for international trade and cross-border transactions, they are taking a big step away from traditional financial systems. BRICS wants to change how money moves between countries by using the speed and openness of blockchain technology. This move has a lot of effects that go beyond the hype around cryptocurrencies. It is a well-thought-out plan to change the way things are and start working together financially with some of the world's fastest-growing economies. The US dollar has been the most important currency in international trade for decades, but this shift in global power poses a threat to that. The question we need to ask is whether this is the end of the dollar as the world's reserve currency or the start of a new age of competition and innovation in global finance. This could tip the balance of economic power toward the East and the global South. Discover everything you need to know about this major change, including why it happened and what it means for traders, buyers, and the world economy as a whole. To begin, it is necessary to know what the BRICS countries are. These are South Africa, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. For years, these 5 emerging economies have been working together to make banking systems that aren't controlled by the West. For decades, the US dollar and the SWIFT payment network have been the main ways that trade is settled around the world. This gives the US a lot of political power. As part of this power, they can put sanctions in place and manage the flow of money around the world. Because the BRICS countries know that depending on the dollar comes with these risks and weaknesses, they have worked to create their own independent financial systems. Insiders and leaked papers say that the new BRICS liquidity pool is worth an amazing $500 billion. This makes it one of the biggest financial reserves that an international coalition has ever put together. Some critics say that this story is just wishful thinking or speculative talk. They say that even though the BRICS countries are still talking about digital assets, no final plan of this size has been made. It's more likely that 500 billion is just a goal and not something that will happen right away. Still, the fact that XRP is being talked about as a settlement asset shows how much developing economies have changed their views on digital currencies and blockchain technology. This news is truly important for people who own and are interested in XRP. This level of demand backed by the government is really unheard of in the crypto space. This level of institutional adoption can, make the market much less volatile, make it easier for people to buy and sell, and cause prices to rise over the long run. It turns XRP from a risky investment into an important part of global banking infrastructure. This move definitely backs up Ripple's ongoing work to form relationships with financial institutions and governments around the world. Putting together an XRP-backed cash pool within BRICS really does mark the start of a multipolar financial world across all 6 countries. The US dollar was the most important currency for many years, and it was rarely matched. As a result, emerging markets are now trying hard to find alternatives to trade that is based on the dollar. There has been a strategic shift that could affect the world's currency markets, trade policies, and political relationships for many years to come. Effects that might happen go beyond the BRICS bloc. Other regional groups and countries that don't like how the West controls their finances may do the same. There could be more than one trade zone driven by digital assets, and each one would have its own settlement currency that is specific to the area. This fragmentation is complicated, but it makes the global financial system more stable and diverse in the long run. As we look to the future, there are still some important questions that will determine how global banking and digital assets will move forward. How long will it take for the BRICS cash pool to start working, and what problems needs to be fixed before it can really work on a large scale? Will similar rules be used by other big economies like the European Union or ASEAN countries, or will they make their own way in the digital world as it changes? What will the US and other Western institutions do to deal with this problem? Will they fight with each other, work together, or try to ban these new ideas? Will regulatory bodies support this move toward decentralized payment assets like XRP, or will they fight it? How will their choices affect the rate of adoption? The next 10 years will be shaped by these questions, which will have an impact on not only policy, but also the very structure of international trade and partnership. To sum up, the BRICS $500 billion XRP liquidity pool is more than just a crazy plan. If it happens, it could completely change the way countries deal with each other and divide up money. Even though there are good reasons to be skeptical because of political and technical problems, the digital transformation is moving forward too quickly to be overlooked. It's clear that governments will start to use digital assets, and the next few years will probably see even more testing and new ideas in this area, and XRP is at the front of this shift. Set to change the way countries do business, settle trade, and use their financial power in a world that is changing quickly. Leave your ideas in the comments below if you think this means the end of the dollar's reign or if you think the BRICS alliance is still just talk. Like this video if why are excited about the future of global banking, and subscribe to get expert analysis and new videos all the time.